Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to add the next 20 creature cards with mana values of 1 into our Momir Vig Cube. What's up, MTGBC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of our ongoing Momir Vig Cube series. If you're unfamiliar with the goals or purposes of the series, you can search in the description below to find a link to MTG Burgeoning's introduction to the Momir Vig Cube. And while you're down there in the description, you can also click the link to Cube Cobra, where you can view the entire contents of the cube as they stand right now. So let's get right down to it right away. We got 20 creature cards with CMCs of 1 going into our cube in this video. And the first one is a colorless creature. It is Jawbone Skulkin. It's a 1/1 scarecrow, and we can pay 2 to have target red creature gain haste until end of turn. Notice that we only have to pay any 2 mana. It doesn't have to be a specific colorless mana or red or white, but we got to make sure that the creature is red in order to give it haste. Creature number 2, we have Jiraga Tree Speaker. We've got an elf druid with the level up mechanic. It's going to begin as a base 1/1. If we pay 1 and a green mana enough times to put between 1 and 4 level up counters on this creature, then it turns into a 1/2 that we can turn sideways for 2 green mana. And once we hit the 5 level up threshold, then elves we control have tap to add 2 green mana to our mana pool, and the toughness goes from 2 to 4. Just make sure you're packing those green mana sources in your basic land deck, because you got to have color-specific lands in play to activate that ability. All right, creature number 3 is Judge's Familiar. We have an Azorius hybrid creature. It's a bird, it's flying, it's 1/1. And that's really going to be all we're going to talk about with this creature, because its ability to sacrifice itself to counter target instant or sorcery spell, unless its controller pays 1, that's meaningless in a format such as Momir Vig, where every single card is going to be a creature. This inclusion is more out of necessity than anything else. There are no other creatures that can fit into the multicolored spread when we're talking about mana values of 1. And once Wizards does do that, and we can get a multicolored creature that can have 1 in its casting cost, that can do better than what Judge's Familiar can do, we will add it to the cube as soon as possible. All right, next creature up, we have Curd Ape. It is a 1/1 ape for... I'm sorry, I'm thrown off here by a little bit. Okay, we have Curd Ape. It's a 1/1 red-green. Oh, jeez, it's not red, it's not green. It is red, it's not green. What is happening here? Seeing the forest completely threw me off. All right, let's try this again. Curd Ape, 1/1. It gets +1/+2 as long as we control a forest. So MTGBC, make sure you have those forests in your basic land library, because failure to do so will just mean you're getting a 1/1 when you could in fact end up with a 2/3. All right, next up we have Kraken Hatchling. Not much to talk about here. We got a 0/4 beefy blocker. That is all. Creature number 6, we have Kumina's Speaker. It's a 1/1 merfolk shaman that will get +1/+1 as long as we control another merfolk, or if we control an island. So similar to Curd Ape getting a power and toughness boost based upon having a specific basic land in play, we can expect the same with Kumina's Speaker, as long as you pack those islands into your basic land deck. Next creature is Legion Loyalist, a 1/1 goblin soldier with haste. It has the battalion mechanic from Gatecrash. Whenever Legion Loyalist and at least 2 other creatures attack, Creatures that we control will gain first strike and trample until end of turn and can't be blocked except by creature tokens this turn. Unfortunately, that last line of text will be completely irrelevant in Momir Vig. Every creature summoned from the cube is a token copy of the creature. So although we will not have the ability to have unblockable creatures, we will still have first strike and trample as long as we send a double L here into combat with at least 2 other creatures. Next up, staying with mono red, we have Lightning Berserker. It's a 1/1. It has fire breathing, so every red mana we pay into it gets +1/+0. The dash mechanic is completely useless because we are not dashing anything from our hand. We are randomly summoning these creatures from the cube, so make sure you have those mountain sources in your basic land library so that you can pump up Lightning Berserker's power. Our second colorless creature of this edition, we have Lightning Core Excavator. It's an 0/3 golem, and we can tap 5, tap this creature, and sacrifice it to deal 3 damage to any target. That is a lot of resources just to throw around 3 damage. On the face of it, of course, this is Momir Vig. We don't have any instant or sorcery speed removal. The only removal we have is in the form of enter the battlefield triggers, activated abilities, triggered abilities, or death triggers from creatures that are being summoned from the cube. So it may not seem like it's going to be valuable, but jamming 5 mana into this and sacrificing it to destroy it to do 3 points of damage to maybe a troublesome or problematic dork on the battlefield, or just to hit your opponent for 3 and maybe do lethal, it's going to look a lot better when you start thinking about what it can do in a format like Momir Vig. Hitting the halfway point, we have creature number 10 going back to mono green, and we got the classic Llanowar Elves. It's a 1/1 that's going to turn sideways for a green mana. This is going to help us ramp out creatures from the cube ahead of curve and hopefully ahead of our opponents. Staying with mono green, creature number 11, we have Llanowar Mentor. This is a 1/1. We can pay a green, we can tap it, we can discard a card, and we can create a 1/1 elf druid that can tap for 1 green mana. So think about it this way. The land that we're discarding, because the only cards in our hand are going to be lands in Momir Vig. Is it going to be worth it to discard that land to put an additional creature onto the battlefield, either for the purposes of trying to generate additional mana to summon our creatures ahead of curve? Or maybe is it going to be worth it to have a bigger board presence through the process of creating these 1/1s, either for the purposes of chump blocking defensively or to send a swarm of creatures into play, overwhelming our opponents. A lot of versatility is presented when we're thinking about Llanowar Mentor. All right, next up we have Loam Lion. It's a 1/1. However, just like Curd Ape, it's going to get +1/+2 as long as we control a forest. So if you've got those forests in your basic land library and you put that Loam Lion into play, you are going to get a 2/3. Another colorless edition, this time it's going to be Lochthwain Gargoyle. It's an 0/3 that we can pay 4 mana into to give it +2/+0 and flying until end of turn. May seem very la-di-da, however, in a format where attacking is everything, any way in which we can get some kind of evasion onto our creature in addition to a buff, that might be enough to send one of our opponents packing. Next creature and another mono green creature. This is a Magus of the Vineyard. It's a 1/1 human wizard. At the beginning of each player's pre-combat main phase, that player is going to add 2 green mana to their mana pool. This will highlight a continuing trend woven into this Momir Vig Cube, and that is not every creature is going to be very helpful to us, and sometimes they're going to help out our opponents. Magus of the Vineyard is a great example of that. All right, another multicolored 1-drop. We have Mana-Forged Cinder. It's a 1/1. We can pay a colorless mana, or we can pay 1 mana of any color to add a black or red to our mana pool, but it's an ability that we can only do 3 times maximum each turn. This is a great creature to have in play if we're having some trouble filtering our mana in ways in which that we need to activate abilities of our creatures. A Mana Forge Cinder will help to generate that black and red mana. All right, we're down to our last 5, and the next one we have is a mono blue merfolk. It's a Manta Rider. We can tap a blue mana to give it flying until end of turn, so make sure you've got those islands in that basic land library. MTGBC. Next creature is the Mardu Hateblade. It's a 1/1, but we can pay a black mana to give it Death Touch until end of turn. Again, make sure you've got those swamps in your basic land library. Next, we have another mono black edition. Actually, this is our first, isn't it? This is our first mono black edition to this portion of the cube, and it is the Mardu Shadow Spear. It's a 1/1, and whenever it attacks, each opponent will lose 1 life. Again, we ignore the dash mechanic because this is summoned randomly from the Momir Vig Cube. As long as we can send Mardu Shadow Spear safely into combat, and if we can string together numerous attacks over the course of several rounds of a game, that life drain mechanic is going to really start to add up as each opponent's life total ticks downward by 1 each time we send the Shadow Spear into combat. And with each player beginning a game of Momir Vig with just 24 life, that life loss can pile up very quickly. Creature number 19, we have Martyred Rusalka. It's a 1/1. We can pay a white mana and sacrifice a creature to have target creature not able to attack this turn. It may be worth it to sacrifice one of our chumpies to not have a great big huge biggin barreling down towards our life total. Again, you need a white mana to do that, so make sure you have those planes in your basic land library. And lastly, we have Merfolk Spy, a 1/1 with Island Walk, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player reveals a card at random from their hand. We'll get to see one of their basic lands, which isn't that big of a deal. What's more important here is the evasion of Island Walk. If we are able to walk all over our opponent's islands and do 1 point of damage, we're going to hope that our opponents have islands in order to accommodate the Merfolk Spy. And there you have it, MTGBC, the next 20 cards with a CMC of 1 and getting jam-packed into our cube. Let me know in the comment section below, which are your favorites. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.